Good evening and welcome to our December 11th last board meeting of the year. Could you call roll, Mr. Lona?
Mr. Chubley.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Present.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Schaff.
Present.
Board President and Mr. Rudy let us know in advance that he would not be able to be attending.
But he might join us on the phone later.
Executive session.
Executive session.
Okay. Item number 2, public hearing for our district calendar.
Good evening. This evening, we will be presenting a draft of our 24-25 district academic calendar. A few pieces that I'll highlight. We are not changing the number of instructional days for students or the number of work days for staff. All of those things remain consistent. We did seek to improve a few pieces of the calendar that we heard that we received feedback either through our WCEA, or Teachers Association, or through our principals. One of the things, the areas that we wanted to work to improve was trying to ensure that we had a few more 5-day weeks, that there were times where students were kind of getting in the rhythm of school, and then there would be, a professional learning day or a teacher work day, and so we sought to bring more consistency to that while also addressing and meeting the professional learning needs of our district. And so you'll notice, for example, around, so our professional days are more clustered around days that students would have already been out. So for example, election day, that Tuesday, that's not a good day for it to have students in our district. And so we clustered 2 of our professional days there, like a Monday and a Tuesday, so that we could not have students have that 4-day week and then maybe like 2 weeks later have another 4-day week. So that's like one example of a shift that we made. We also did that again in February, connected with the holiday that was already there. And then I think those are the only 2 where it's like 2 days in a row that way, but it allowed us to have some additional full weeks of instruction for students. We traditionally have ended the student year prior to Memorial Day, and so that's still in effect for this calendar. We feel that we want to maximize the instructional days prior to testing so that our students and our staff have as much time as possible to be prepared for that. And really after that, it becomes difficult to maintain engagement and attention and those sorts of things. And so we found that being able to end prior to Memorial Day has been really beneficial for us in the past. We are able to start just a little later next year. And one of the shifts at the beginning was for, this year we had 5 professional days at the beginning of the year. This year we're going back to 3. And that allowed us to get creative on a few other things. One of the things that is probably the biggest change to a proposal for next year is that the entire week of Thanksgiving for students would be a week out. One of the things we've noticed in doing some research is that many other districts have made that shift, that we find that those 2 days, that Monday and Tuesday, students were always out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But we find that that Monday, Tuesday are days that we have lower attendance, families who are traveling out of town or just have other obligations. And so we've made that, we're recommending that shift for next year so that we can kind of see how that goes, and if that's one that is an appreciated change. We will have staff having a professional learning day that Monday, and then they will be out for the rest of that week. We're able to leverage some of the days that are like exchange days that are allowed by contract, and by ODEs like policies around conferences. Teachers who attend and work those parent-teacher conferences were able to exchange those for up to two working days. And so that's where those days fall this year. Are there any questions or things that you would like me to highlight?
And this is just on the 24-25 calendar, right?
Correct.
I guess we've already approved 20.
Yeah, I will say about the 23, 24.
23-24, because we're already in it, though. This is for the, okay, yeah.
This is for next.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and I think, and it just dawned on me, because reading the date may change based on election day, that usually Ohio has primary, or has the spring election in March, except during primaries for the presidential primary, and then they move it. So I think in 2025 that election might be in March, but.
Yeah, and so it's kind of hard to tell, and we've tried, you can only get as much, they only publish those dates so far in advance, so that's why it's really like with an asterisk, that it's subject to change. I will just, since you brought up the 23-24 calendar, one thing that right now we're looking into is, if you've not already heard, we have a solar eclipse that's happening this year. And our area is right in that band where a full eclipse, we're just on the edge of that. And of course, the timing of that is right at the end of student dismissal, like right when students would be getting on the buses. And so we've been looking and exploring what some calendar possibilities might be for us that day, so we can ensure student safety and make sure that we're not, getting ourselves into an unnecessary predicament. So we're exploring some options that we may have available.
I think that would be a huge learning opportunity for us to capitalize on, something as unique coming right over the schools. I don't know how we do that, but.
Yeah, I
that's
think
what you guys
if
are
the
doing.
timing, if it were like at noon, I think that would work out really well. But so we're just
I think they'll be able to
exploring.
still capitalize on learning of some sort, but because we will be packing the buses at the same time, being able to monitor if people are using the glasses, if we can, find glasses to provide or whatever appropriately would be really
cool.
It would be cool, but also not easy to monitor to be sure that.
Yes, they're like walking themselves out to the bus and, staring up at the sky or whatever, so.
So we wanted to just let you know tonight, it's a topic. It happens to be the day we're coming back from spring break. We're not interested in missing any more minutes of school, like that's not a thing, but it is a challenge. Different schools across the tri-state are doing different things. Some are providing glasses, some are canceling, some are doing a remote learning day. So I just wanted to put it out there so that we can have some discussion and get a decision, probably in in January, February.
Ms. Preston, one of the questions that I had is related to an email that we received earlier today, perhaps suggesting that we have different number of school days than districts in our area, and perhaps they have fewer professional learning days than we do. How do we compare to those in our community? So
the state of Ohio measures instruction by hours instead of by days. And so that's been a shift that they've made. Can't remember the exact year, but it's been a few years since that shift was made, probably within the last, 4 years, 5 years, something. And so from that standpoint, we are well above the state minimum required minutes of instruction. And I will say that this will be our third year where we've had the same number of student days. We have had in the district more instructional days, and that was really prior to COVID. And I think one of the things that we saw was a real need to ensure that our staff had proper opportunity and time to be equipped to support the needs of students, and to be prepared to do so requires time. And, we've worked hard to strike that balance, and I think that's why one of the shifts that we made this year in trying to build more of those consistent days, so it wasn't like 4-day week and then 5-day week and another 4-day week, or some modifications that we've made, while still really trying to maximize instruction. Like I said, there are other districts where they continue on, like after Memorial Day, they go into June, and we just find that that's time that isn't really maximized as much as possible, and so we'd rather start a little earlier and really get the most out of our students and staff prior to those really critical times in the spring. It's something that we continue to look at and adjust, but we really believe that by giving students the best of us with the days and the time and the hours that they have of us, it's from a result standpoint, it's really been paying off, and we find that that's really been working well for us.
So I hear you indirectly say that it's not fair necessarily to compare what we're doing to those around us. The need is there to continue to educate the students. It's our priority. And I am a firm believer that professional development is very, very important to keep our teachers and support staff operating in a safe manner, giving them new ideas, fresh ideas on how to, teach whatever it is that they're supposed to be teaching, and then has that HR element and things like that. So I don't necessarily, I appreciate the schedule, the thought behind it, and taking into consideration everything that you have presented tonight.
Yeah,
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To maybe help to clarify, these professional days, for the community to understand, this is the time for our staff to get together to discuss whether it's their topic, maybe it's the English department, maybe it's kindergartners, that's the kindergarten department. It's their time to get together to discuss things that they're doing, things that are working. Or is this the time that we have an outside company come in and are doing PowerPoint presentations?
Yeah, I
What are
think
being
it's
done in these
it's like
times?
it's a yes and. So I'll just highlight some of the things from this year as an example. So one of the things, all of our kindergarten, first grade, and second grade classroom teachers this year, third grade, and our intervention specialists are required as part of law to participate in professional learning related to the science of reading. And so what that has meant for us as a district, we've chosen to provide letters training. And so that's 4 full days of professional learning that is, it's very intensive. And then above that, our teachers complete an online component where they're really then processing what they've learned, they're applying it to their classroom situation. And so that's professional learning that would have to happen regardless. And so we leverage those professional learning days so that we're not having to pull teachers from class, we're not having to then have sub-challenges because we had to have all of our kindergarten, first grade, second grade teachers come together to receive this learning. In some ways, we wouldn't have the capacity to do it if we didn't have these days for that training to happen. So that's an example, and that's just one, and it's best practice. We're thrilled that we have the opportunity to do that, but there are other legislated, mandated, sorts of professional learning experiences that we're required to. Other examples of professional learning. So this year is our English Language Arts course of study. So we're bringing teachers from preschool through 12th grade together to really ensure that our English Language Arts program is the very best that it can be. And so we're building our philosophy of instruction. We're looking to really ensure that we have well-aligned assessments and instruction, and that we have that we make choices about instructional materials that our teachers and students need to have. And so we do that kind of work on professional learning days. At the middle school, because our content teams and our interdisciplinary teams don't have planning time and collaboration time every day. At the middle school, they're leveraging our professional learning days to be able to come together as interdisciplinary teams to have conversations and to do work where they're really able to examine student needs. They're able to really understand student strengths and what they do need, and then being able to design instruction or intervention accordingly. They come together to collaborate on ways to bring their content together so that they're not like operating in silos. That's happening at our high school. We have content teams that are coming together to really ensure we have guaranteed and viable curriculum in all of our courses. They're building out common assessments. It's all of these things that are really at the heart of high-functioning districts that we need to ensure we have in place, and that we just need the time to be able to do that. Teaching is a very demanding job, and to think that our teachers would be able to do that kind of work like after the school day is over it's just not realistic. And so we really believe that these things are critical to us being able to continue to be a district on the rise. And like I said, we've seen significant benefits both from an academic standpoint, student outcomes, as well as just teachers who feel more equipped to do their jobs well. So those are examples of some of the things that we use this time for. I will also point out that at the end of each quarter, teachers have the old school name for it really is like a records day, where really they're able to ensure that the information that we share with families about student progress over those previous 9 weeks, that they're able to have time to really provide thoughtful feedback, either in the form of a report card or progress monitoring. And so those days are also part of the professional days, so that teachers have time to really attend to that other professional task of their job.
One of the, early on in my time here on the board, I was invited to attend one of your professional development days.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the day was the entire district together, and then the afternoon they broke up and they went to the different buildings, and I was invited to sit in on the professional development for the secretarial staff on how to provide good customer service, not only to the parents, but to the children. And I thought that there was a lot of value there because they talked about the communication aspect of things, the organization of paperwork and communications in written form to everybody. And I thought there was a lot of value to that. And I'm sure similarly, things like that are continuing to occur.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not just for our certified staff, but also for our classified
Yeah.
staff.
I found
and
a
support
lot of
staff.
value in attending that, just as an observer, but to see how it all plays together and the value that it brings to the district.
Any other questions?
That's it.
All right, are we throwing a vote on this calendar?
Do we have to
No,
ask-
the vote is later in the meeting. This is just a hearing, so,
do we have to ask if there's anybody in attendance?
yeah. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak on the calendar? In our email, the info@westclair email where we get information from people, nothing came into there around this topic. I haven't really if I got something today, I haven't seen it, but I don't know if I was copied on the email you guys got, but I haven't
Was she?
seen
I didn't
anything
remember seeing it.
anymore than that then.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do the pledge, and then we're going to go into executive session.
All right, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we have need to withdraw to executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, to consider matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes, and to discuss details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for the Board of Education. the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
All right.
Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Schaff,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
4 yes.
All right, we will be back in about an hour, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
See you then.
a direct impact on the success and progress and the diversity of educational programming options. Our schools just aren't bricks and mortar, but building blocks for the future of our students. Let's face it, kids spend a lot of time at school. School is their home away from home and plays a huge role in helping them achieve their hopes and dreams for the future. Our schools are also some of the most important assets of our community, and they belong to you. We know you drive by our buildings daily, but when is the last time you have taken a look inside? That's why we have made it a priority to open up our buildings so the community can see all. We know you drive by our buildings daily, but when is the last time you have taken a look inside? That's why we have made it a priority to open up our buildings so the community can see all the great things and some of the not so great things our buildings provide. If you haven't yet been to one of our building tours, I encourage you to attend one. Having facilities that function well for all the great things and some of the not so great things our buildings provide. If you haven't yet been to one of our building tours, I encourage you to attend one. Having facilities that function well for our students is a critical condition for reaching Portrait of a Graduate outcomes.
It's like, because there is sort of a delay, like when I click pause, my computer stops and then it goes for another second or so. I hear it for another second.
So the thing is, it's cached up, but my thing is, if there is kind of a, there's the like audio, okay, hang on, let's try this again, let me go out of here. Go ahead and play that again.
Inside. That's why we have made it a priority to open up our buildings so the community can see all the great things and some of the not so great things our buildings provide. If you haven't yet been to one of our building tours, I encourage you to attend one. Having facilities that function well.
And then it still plays for us.
That's why we have made it a priority to open up our buildings so the community can see all
thumbs up.
Can we go? We can go.
Good evening and welcome back to our December 11th board meeting. We already did the Pledge of Allegiance, if anyone was wondering. Mr. Romano, could you bring us back?
Yep. Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Present?
Mr. Patton.
Present?
Mr. Schaff.
Present.
Four present.
All right, student voice.
All right, so we have a jam-packed agenda tonight. We're gonna start off with student voice, and we're gonna bring Mr. Jones up and students from Willowville, who will be talking about innovation. And so, Mr. Jones, it's all yours. Come on up.
Good evening, esteemed Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, and Mr. Roman. I am Grace Hugenberg, and my colleagues and I are here this evening to share with you how Willowville is providing opportunities for its students to innovate and be creative while working in teams to solve problems. Back in early November, we received an invitation to meet with a research coordinator, Tricia King, to learn about an opportunity to partner with her and Matthew 25 to serve our community. When I received the invitation card, I was curious about what the opportunity was all about. I went home and told my parents about the invitation and told Mr. Jones that I was interested in hearing more about the opportunity. The next week, the other students and I met with Miss King to hear about an opportunity to serve at Matthew 25 in order to help disaster victims and those in need in our community.
While at the meeting, Mrs. King presented us with a letter that described what she was asking us to do. The other students and I read every word from the letter from Mrs. King. In fact, we needed to read it several times to be sure what we were doing. The letter informed us that Matthew 25 needed volunteers to work on December 19th to support a project. It said we needed to recruit our peers to get 40 students to sign up and up to serve. The letter told us that we would need to give a persuasive speech to all of our second, fifth through fifth grade classrooms to persuade them to serve with our team. That meant that we needed to learn how to write a persuasive speech, and we needed to learn about Matthew 25 does, as well as learn about other nonprofit organizations do and around in the community.
We found out at our first meeting that there was another student in the district that was also working on a project to serve in our community. We immediately got our Google Meet to see what he is doing in the community. It was exciting to hear that someone our age was collecting supplies and preparing bags for the homeless. We were curious to think about how we could help him.
We then turned our focus to learning about Matthew 25. We began reading about Matthew 25, their mission and vision, as well as how they support people around the world. We looked at a timeline of the organization and what they do. The next day, we began researching other nonprofit organizations that help in our community, and we each presented information about these organizations to our classmates.
At this point, our project team knew that if we were going to convince and persuade our classmates to serve at Matthew 25, we needed to go there first to serve so we could better understand what we were going to be asked to do. At the end of that week, we went with Mr. Jones to serve at Matthew 25. We met with a representative from Matthew 25 and learned the job that we were going to perform that day. We were asked to take blankets out of the individual packaging that they were in and then pack the blankets into large bins that would be shipped to people in need. We quickly got to work. We unpacked and unpacked and unpacked and began to fill the bins. We actually filled 4 bins during the 2 hours that we were there. We worked hard, but we knew it was going to make a difference.
Finally, we went on a tour with a guide from Matthew 25 to learn about disaster victims and how natural disasters impact people around the world. In these pictures, you can see how someone's home might be damaged by an earthquake or a flood. I couldn't imagine going through natural disaster like these. We have it so good. After visiting the natural disaster simulation area, we finished our work, but I couldn't stop thinking about the people impacted by these disasters and how I could help them.
When we returned to Willowville, we began learning about natural disasters and the science behind them. We learned how the hurricanes are named and how tornadoes and tsunamis are formed. Did you know that in the Atlantic Ocean, Hurricane Tammy was the last hurricane to be named? And if we have another in the Atlantic Ocean this year, the name will be Vince. As we learned about natural disasters, we charted our learning. Next, we met with our reading specialist, Miss Kennedy, to continue about persuasive writing. We knew we needed support for our writing. We learned about how to write our introduction, our hook, and the best way to include our details. We also had to think about how we would organize our information in order to really persuade our audience. We also worked with our team to determine which information was the most important to include in our speeches. We each wrote down our ideas, and then we grouped the ideas together on the project board so we could solidify which ideas to include. Then we continued the writing process. We wrote a draft and got our feedback on our writing. Finally, we learned how to give a speech and the communication rubric to know how we were going to be assessed. We learned how to speak audibly, the importance of making eye contact and facing our audience. We also learned how hand gestures help a presentation. For example, you could use the chop if you wanted to emphasize a certain point. Or you could put your hands on your heart if you wanted to cause an audience to connect emotionally with your speech. We then had an opportunity to present our speech to our team and get feedback before we made our presentations to all the classrooms during their morning meeting time.
Through this project, we have had many opportunities to develop the portrait of a graduate skill. We have learned how to communicate with others and how to manage our time and meet deadlines, and how to work with others, all while doing a ton of reading and writing and receiving instructions from our teachers. Now I am here asking you, have I persuaded you to join us as we serve our community? Will you join us at Matthew 25 on Tuesday, December 19th from 10 to 12? Just like we did. You too can make a difference in our community. I know you all have busy schedules, but if you are available, we would love to invite you to serve with us at Matthew 25. If you are available, please let Mr. Jones know, and he will add you to the list. Thank you for your time.
We would like to quickly share the project that we worked on at Willowville with you. This project is another example of how Willowville allowed us to innovate and think creatively. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Jones purchased a weather system that would allow our school to take readings on the wind speed, the humidity, the temperature, and precipitation, as well as register lightning strikes in the area. When the Tempest weather system arrived, he didn't even open the box, but simply gave it to us to figure out. We opened the box and began to read the instructions. We had to learn what each piece did and how the device was assembled. Mr. Jones simply allowed us to read about the device on our own and try different things out. As we researched the weather system, we knew that we were going to have help with the installation of the device. Mr. Jones called Mr. LaFada and coordinated with his office to have a team so we could show them what we had learned about the device and so we could provide suggestions for how to best install the system.
Throughout our time learning about the Tempest weather system, we read and researched. We learned how to set up the app to be able to take the readings from the weather system, and we learned about where the best location would be for this installation. We also learned about how the weather system uses solar power to provide power to the unit and also how to assemble the device. We met with Mr. LaFada and the maintenance team. We shared our learning about the recommendations are for how and where to install the weather system. Of course, we met with them. We practiced our speech, got feedback, and created slides to show them what we had learned and how to install the equipment. We also shared what we had learned about where to place the device, and we talked about our options for placing the device on the roof or on the grounds around the school. We discussed the positioning of the device so the solar panels would work best and how the device needs to be installed with a specific side facing north in order to take correct readings. We then demonstrated how the device would be assembled and how the pole would be placed in the device. We looked at the additional options for installation, and then the facility team asked us questions.
At the end of our presentation, we thank Mr. LaFada, Mr. Hall, and Mr. Caldron for coming and for giving us their time to help us with this project. We are now awaiting the soon installation of our weather device in order to make Willowville Elementary into a weather reporting center. This project taught us many skills and allowed us to try different strategies, learn from our mistakes, and improve our problem solving and communication skills. This is the portrait of a graduate in action. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. How impressive was that? I mean,
Very professional.
very professional. You guys did a fantastic job. Thank you for coming tonight, and you guys can stay around. We got a little music coming our way, a little holiday music. Mr. Fisher here, or is he not here? Not here. Good, and we won't have to listen to him.
Not fair.
That's not fair. I couldn't talk bad about him, but he probably wouldn't expect anything else. So guys, take it away, a little holiday music. You want to tell us your names and grade? Come on up.
I'm Elijah Daniels. I'm here with Sam Jennings, Javante Lee. We're all juniors at West Clermont High School, and we're just going to play a couple tunes for you.
Awesome, appreciate it. How many hours a week you guys put in band?
Too much.
Will you guys tell them what instrument you're playing in case they want to join someday when they're at your age?
I play the drum. I play the trombone. I play the euphonium. Trombone's the coolest one.
No, never trust a trombone player. I just gotta say that.
Fantastic. I want to recognize the trombone player. Every time that I've seen him over the last probably 12 months, he demonstrates the utmost leadership, whether it be in the spirit shop, whether it be on the field as the drum major here tonight, leading us. He's a fantastic representation of West Clermont.
Barry, talk a little bit about this group.
This is West Clermont Alpha. It's our competitive a cappella group at West Clermont High School. And we just love spreading the holiday cheer in December. And so we're happy that you guys invite us. And thank you very much.
Mistletoe hung where you can see. Somebody waits for you. Kiss her once for me. Holly jolly. Mistletoe hung where you can see. Somebody waits for you. Kiss her once for me. Hubba hubba hubba
Did you guys just perform at Pierce last weekend? Yeah. Because we were out to lunch today with Mr. Williams, and he was bragging all about you, and I knew he had to be talking about you guys, so he was very, very impressed. So thank you for doing that in our community.
I did notice the one student who did double duty there.
Yes.
Impressive.
Although he was doing the trombone when they were doing their motions instead of the trumpet, like the instrument he played.
You can do it all. Are you ready? Sure. Well, at this time, we appreciate your patience. We're going to take some time now to show a little video of our special honorees tonight. Mrs. Tammy Brinkman and Mr. Michael Chumley, our board members who will be wrapping up their time on the board with us this evening. So we'll start with the video, and then we'll share a few words. And then what you've been all waiting for are some cookies outside. We can take a little pause and enjoy each other a little bit and celebrate. And thank you all for being here. So, oh, are you good, Mr. Ryan? We're close.
Did Hurricane Tammy come through?
Let me tell you a story about that while we're waiting.
She's been here for 4 years.
Before I was on the board, there was a Hurricane Tammy that was coming through, and I was the president of the PTO at Summerside. And we had our walkathon, and here comes Hurricane Tammy. We had to move the tropical storm Tammy into the building, and we had to walk around, and it was nothing more than just a bunch of crazy chaos inside that building. And the principal said, "Leave it to you to ruin the day." So I had a big chuckle when you brought that forward.
We're good now? Okay, thank you. It wasn't local,
No.
just side effects. take us back down memory lane with baby Michael.
Can we put that picture with him without a beard back up there?
I know. It's been a long time. It is, something especially for you kids that are here today, you can never underestimate the power of what one person can do. And I would say each, Mrs. Brinkman as well as Mr. Chumley have made a significant impact. Mrs. Brinkman has weathered 3 superintendents, 3 treasurers, and in that amount of time has played the role, and this is thanks to Ryan, because he is the reason, this is her son, Ryan is the reason why she got so involved as a PTO member and president, as a booster member. I don't know if you ever had a role in boosters.
No.
And being on committees, I know a lot of people in our community know Tammy from the West, what do they call the Citizens for West Clermont, for levies that you were part of. And so your thumbprint on so many decisions in West Clermont. We have a new West Clermont, a new West Clermont High School because of you. We have a new Summerside Elementary, a new Willowville Elementary because of the decisions that you've made. And I know when Michael Chumley came along, we made decisions there around Clough Pike. And so you were able to be part of the opening of Clough Pike because your timing was right around January 2020. We all remember when the world was just right. And then things changed. And so your leadership, Michael, as you came onto the board, serving during COVID, one of the most critical points in West Clermont's time. And I know, and I remember specifically hearing from both of you that you wanted for West Clermont to get better as a result of COVID and to come out on the rise and come out ahead. And I would definitely say with your leadership and your challenge to us to not accept status quo, but to continue to push in the area of academics, in the area of just how we work and communicate and collaborate with our community, and athletics and all the activities that are a part of West Clermont. You care so deeply about each of those things, and you both, through hard decisions, and I know you had the hard times with COVID and needing to decide if we're going to have school or not have school, wear masks or not wear masks, all that stuff. And Tammy really was a leader during some really challenging financial times. And you have probably seen the district at some of its worst moments, and hopefully you've been a part of some of the greatest moments. And this evening, what we'd like to be able to do is to recognize each of you for your time on the board with a small gift and token and a little bit of a memory from West Clermont. And I know you each want to say something about each other, so I'll give you a moment.
Well,
I'll go first. I know that surprises no one when I say I'll go first. I think I deserve the crowd an explanation. When we were laughing so hard about that photo that was up there, that was this past homecoming parade. And the 3 of us were in the car, and somehow Mr. Chumley throws my keys out of the car instead of candy. So he says, "Oh my, we gotta get the keys back."
And the kid thought they won a free car, so they were excited. They were like, "This is the best gift ever."
The worst part was that was a borrowed car. We've shared a lot of fun memories over the years. When Mr. Chumley first put his name in for the Board of Education, Mr. Schaff and I was scouring the website and saying, okay, who is this guy that's applying for the Board of Education? We didn't know him. He was a unknown commodity. Didn't have students in the district, young guy, much unlike myself. And Dave and I kind of sought him out to say, okay, who is this guy that's running and what does he stand for? Dave took the lead on that. He said, girl, you need to meet this guy. He's the real deal. He wants everything positive for the students. He has young kids to come up through the ranks. And he's running for the right reasons. I met him and I said, wow, the ideas that he has, what you stand for, the fresh opinions that you bring, unlike 12 years I've spent on the board, things get a little stale. You see things the same way all the time. You brought something different to that. Thank you. You have been a breath of fresh air at a time when we needed some fresh air. When we lost Mrs. Delaney in the fall, Michael stepped up. He became our board president, and he demonstrated a lot of leadership. We have that to thank. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Well, let's see if I can not cry.
Sorry.
4 years ago, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. Had no clue what I was doing. I hope those who come after me on this board feel as poured into, feel as supported as I have felt alongside Tammy here. She's been an incredible person to work beside. She's probably been the strongest voice on this board, especially for our community, as you can see by the well-deserved cheers as she walked up here. It's been nothing but an honor to serve alongside you. It's been nothing but an honor to call you a fellow board member, and it's been nothing but an honor to call you a friend. I know that this is not goodbye.
No.
This is see you later. We'll both still be heavily involved with this school. I have 2 boys in the system now. I have 2 more coming, so it's just a busy time of life for me now, but you're going to see plenty in my face. So.
And I've had 2 graduates, 2014 and again in 2022. And anybody who knows me knows that my feet don't stay still for long. If there's a job to be done, you can call on me to fill the need, to lead the charge, whatever it is, and I'm not going anywhere. I'd like to thank those that are here. There's a lot of parents, friends, family, a lot of parents that have had kids through the system, through the not so good to the point that we are now, which is, I think, the best that West Clermont has ever been. Not just our leadership, but our leadership to the right of us. We couldn't do this without either one of you.
Absolutely.
Well, our vision in West Clermont is together as one community, we learn, lead, and succeed. And I think you both really embody that vision by your model. And you both have had to step up as leaders in really difficult times and make tough calls. And I know everyone doesn't always agree all the time, and it can be very challenging. There's pressure. You can't just go to the grocery store and just be Tammy or just be Michael, because you're going to hear things about West Clermont. And so thank you for the time away from your family, because I know a lot of time from both of you have been invested. And you really can't get those minutes back. But I also just want you to look at, just measure that time through all the investment that you have put into West Clermont, because you are seeing fruits of your labor and fruits of your heart. It's just started to bloom all around. And we just can't thank you enough. So I know Dan will want to say something.
So I've been associated with schools for over 40 years, which means that there's probably been over 40 different boards of education. Tammy, when I was driving back from West Clermont after the interview for that job, and there was an individual that was kind of a go-between I thought it was between the whole board, but I think it was just mainly with you, with it. And as I'm driving back 3 hours to Toledo, I thought to myself, what am I getting myself into with that? But what I got myself into was a complete joy to work for a board that I think what this board has done, and I think it's mainly because of your driving, was that boards of education, like communities, don't always agree. And a lot of times what they don't always agree is in the room over there, in private, because the face that you've shown to the community was that you can disagree, but agree publicly and agree with that face. That's a team. And the ability for a Board of Education to be a team, because there's a greater cause out there, which is kind of sitting right here, right now, in front of us, it's something phenomenal to see. Like I've always said about the superintendent, about the administrators here, it's great as I kind of am up in age and, look forward somewhere to hanging things up, that, I'm kind of ending those years with what I think is the best with it. Michael, the ability to have experience and the ability to have youth on a board to bring new ideas, to bring fresh ideas, to bring 2 children now and 2 children coming up, is a pleasure because you want what's best right now for everybody, just as well as all these board members do, to do that. You've been able to bring, not just to the Board of Education, but to the administration, just different points of view where it's unifying to everybody to do. When I walked in, one of the things that superintendent first gave me was the board aspirations. And it was obvious that a lot of those aspirations came from every board member and from a diversity of boards, which is really good. I want to thank your families. Just as the superintendent said, there's, what you guys do, I think is number one for your families. Okay, it is for all these children, but number one is for the people sitting over there. It's for your family and your kids at home to do that. For you to sacrifice and give both Michael and Tammy, not just to the board and to the administrators, but to the whole districts, I appreciate you doing that. And I know that's not easy to do with that. I really look forward to chapter 2 of what both of you will be doing for this community. I know and I hope that you're not going away, but I also do hope that you enjoy the time that you're getting back, with us. And I look forward to chapter 2. It's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll have you guys do your comments during the comment section, unless you want to go now. You tell me what you want to do.
I'll wait.
Okay, we'll do comments at the end then, because this audience has been so patient. So
Yes.
we're so grateful. So
There's cookies to be had.
I know,
Come on.
there is. So I'll turn that over to you, Michael, to take us into a recess.
All right.
We need to vote on going into
I
recess?
would like to lay on the floor in the form of a motion, recess to get some cookies.
I'll second that.
You think 10 minutes? Is 10 minutes good?
15.
15, we'll do 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Who moved and who seconded?
Me and,
Okay, got that. Mr. Chumley,
yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 yes.
All right, we'll see you in 15 minutes.
Go get cookies. All right.
Good evening and welcome back from our brief intermission.
We already did the pledge.
We already did the pledge, if you
Yes.
wanted. Mr. Amara, could you bring us back?
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 present.
Thank you. All right.
Adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda. I will put that on the floor in the form of motion. Ask for a second.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Was Tammy moved?
No, it was Michael.
Michael did? All right, got it, Ryan. Okay.
I'm going to put my name on everything today.
Mr.
I'll follow
Chumley.
you.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 yes to adopt.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any cards?
Right. We did not.
All right. Item 7.01, the Stop School Violence Grant.
Thank you. This evening, we have on the agenda an amendment to our subaward agreement under the Stop School Violence grant that we received. If you recall, back in July, you approved a contract or subaward agreement for this grant to purchase therapists through Child Focus. We inadvertently left off language that would reflect that this is a 3-year grant, so the total amount that could be provided to Child Focus for these services needed to be reflected in an amendment. So in the original agreement, we talk about $270,000 for this school year. The amendment talks about the potential for up to $810,000 over the life of the grant. So if that grant goes through the full extent of its life with Child Focus, they could earn that amount. So that's what that is.
Thank you.
Good evening again. I have 2 overnight field trips that we're seeking your approval for. The first is for actually the performance group that you heard this evening, West Clermont Alpha. That's their competition chorus. And they practice for events such as this. So it's an opportunity for them to kind of get away from it all and really focus on their program development and music selections and whatnot. So that field trip is departing on February 23rd and returning on February 25th of 2024. The second field trip is for the girls' basketball team to attend the Classic in the City tournament, competition, whatnot. That is in January, departing on January 13th and returning on January the 15th. After those 2 overnight field trips, item 7.04 is the second reading for our health course of study. We brought that forward to you last meeting, and so this meeting we're seeking your approval. We've not made any changes since we brought that to you last month.
Good evening. We have our second reading for 2 different policies. We had the first reading at our last meeting. The first one is 5112, entrance requirements. Again, state allows us to have 2 different dates. One of them September 30th, one of them is August 1st. Most schools in the area are August 1st. And so we've had no changes since our last reading. And so we'll continue with that and make that recommendation for 5112. And then the other one is 5113.01, and that's the intra-district open enrollment. And again, we added the applications for admission, and we also looked at behavioral as well as student attendance, and we've had no comments or additions or modifications to the 2 first readings.
Item 7.06 is approval of the minutes. Those are for the November 16th, 2023 regular business meeting. Item 7.07 is the list of donations. Request to be approved by the board. I'll read those briefly. Kathy Hutt provided dinner for volunteers at Math Sports Literacy Night at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. Peace, Love, and Peace, Love, and Little Donuts donated 24 mini donuts at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary for staff treats. A Caring Place donated $1,000 to West Clermont High School competition cheer sponsorship for nationals. Biggie Coffee donated coffee for the West Clermont High School mock trial competition. Sam's Club donated 300 bakery cookies and 35 packs of soda to West Clermont High School mock trial competition. Longhorn Steakhouse donated salad and dressing for 40 people to West Clermont High School mock trial competition. National Honor Society donated $500 to West Clermont High School Thanksgiving dinner. Withamsville Tabasco PTO donated a hydration station for the teachers' lounge at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. Arian Gilson donated 4 tickets and parking passes to 3 UC men's basketball games to West Clermont High School boys basketball fundraiser. And the American League Post 72 donated $1,600 in Walmart gift cards for students in need. Again, request for the board to approve those donations. Item 7.08 are contracts. It's the recommendation to approve the resolution authorizing the superintendent and treasurer to execute agreements for district services. There are 2 brought forward. One is for New Life Furniture Agreement, and that is part of a grant, and Eric will correct me if I state this wrong, but with part of that, it is the ability to provide furnishings for needy families, primarily for homeless, and it is through that grant that that agreement is being put forth. Basically, the payment is really for just the shipping for those furnishings. The second is for the school care customer subscription agreement. That is no cost to us. We are past our first, I think it was a 2-year, and now this is extending that for another 3 years. Again, it is software that is used with in the health services area, and that is at no cost for the school district. But the agreement is being approved for the 3-year period, and there's some student privacy that goes along with that. Item 7.09 is Mr.
Lafata.
Mr. Flott is with the purchasing a truck.
Good evening. First of all, I want to say congratulations to retiring or past board members here in a few minutes. I, like Dan, have worked with boards for over 40 years, and I have to say from afar, my relationship with you has been awesome, and it's very clear to me that you two and the whole board, in fact, have a passion for kids and West Clermont. So thanks. It's been a pleasure working with you.
It's been a pleasure working with
Now for the truck. We, each year we try to buy a new vehicle and trade in an old vehicle. Dan has been very gracious in allowing us to do that. So we go through the Ohio Buys program. It's a state co-op. Beechmont Ford is a member of the Ohio Buys program, as we are. So we're getting a new utility truck, heavy duty, a Dodge truck with a snowplow. We passed down the older truck to another maintenance person. So here's why I want to talk to you about this, is our vision. We're beginning a utility truck with cabinets on the side, snowplow, and that makes all of our maintenance guys more efficient. They don't have to run, it sounds trite, but they don't have to run. If they need a part or a tool, they don't have to run to the shop or Home Depot to get it. They keep it in their trucks, locked up. So when they start working at 4 or 5 a.m. in a building, they can complete the job because they have everything they need right there in their trucks. So it's, I'm grateful to the board to allow us to make these purchases each year. This year we're trading in a 2000 utility van, which we may have to push to Beechmont Ford for them to take it. But it's well worth getting that off our inventory and the new truck on our inventory. And lastly, it'll give us another plow. If we ever have snow, we'll be more prepared for that. So thank you again. Any questions on it? And again, thank you too.
Our pleasure.
So just to add to that, the nice thing that Mr. Lafata puts forward is a replacement schedule for the equipment. And so I know we had a high effort at the end of last school year to make sure that the teachers had all the right resources and what they needed in the classroom. And the same thing goes for the operations department. Those individuals need the right resources, the right tools to do their jobs too. So the replacement schedule of that equipment, including the vehicles, comes in handy with that. Item 7.10 is approval of purpose and budget statements for this school year. There are two being brought forward. A change with the social studies student activity at the high school and the winter percussion student activity at the high school. Item 7.11 is transfers for this year. This is a transfer between accounts at the school building level. This is at the middle school. There was a fund that was established for recovery. It is dormant. The two criteria that we looked at with the school was that those funds be used for a similar use as what the original intent was, and secondly, that they maximize that use to all the students. And so when we look at the transfers of where it's going to, part of that similar use was in field trips. The second part is with the principal's fund, where that is really the intended for the whole school. And the third is for the Everyone Belongs Club, which again, the benefit of that is really for the whole school, not just for a specific group of kids. And so the one fund will be closed out. The balance in that account, $17,745, will be transferred to those three other clubs on the books at the middle school. Item 7.12 is the financial statements, bills paid, lists, and investments for the period ending November 30th. Again, there's two sections of those, one in the public content, one in the executive session for that. So the request is in the consent agenda is items 7.01 through 7.12.
Heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion. Any questions?
I had one question on the second reading of the 5112, the entrance requirements. Did we have any feedback from the first reading over changing the elementary entry?
I got one email and I sent that to you guys, and I haven't heard anything else.
Okay.
And so, and I didn't get a response back, so I think what I shared was acceptable, I guess, I'm assuming. And we didn't have anything in info at West Clare, so nothing's come in.
But it makes sense for us to align ourselves with what everybody else is doing.
Our teachers are very happy about it. I think it really will make a difference in what a kindergarten classroom can do with this change, and it'll only go from here, I think. But it's just change, so it'll take people a minute to get used to that. We will over-communicate because we do our kindergarten roundup in February. I feel like it's February 7th? Okay, February 7th, and we will just get it on every social media channel, get it at every school, because it is a change in practice that will, and I think we'll be sending something out from this meeting as well. I say I think, like, yes, we are, right? Yes, okay, thank you.
Ready for roll?
All right.
Okay, Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes.
Section 8, superintendent's.
Okay, so for tonight, I have with you the West Clermont Roadmap Report, Volume 5, and what's significant about this volume is that it kind of marks a turning point in our process. If you look at the gauges, and I can't remember exactly what page this is on, it says the big picture. I'm going to mark that down. The big picture on page 8. About 85% of our listening and learning phases are over, 50% of the explore and envision, the future is over, and about 25% of the review and share is over. So what this marks as, like, we're kind of like square in the middle of where we are with listening and putting pen to paper with some ideas. And so what will happen and transpire over the next several months is you will see at Citizens Advisory Commission, all the impact teams will report, and at board meetings, all the impact teams will report. So it'll give us one last chance to say, okay, this is what we learned, this is what we've researched, this is what we've studied, this is what we think will be a good solution. and we'll be kind of testing those ideas out with you to see, like, are these priorities, does this match what you're thinking, as well as working to help support the CAC process. Because when it's all said and done, we'll be bringing to you a strategic plan in the spring that kind of sets West Clermont on a course till 2030. So it'll help, it'll get really specific about the next 2 years. It'll be more vague, obviously, the further we go out. But we are looking to plan 2030 with these decisions. So as you flip through the book, you'll see where are we now. It's about the Ohio Department of Education results, our quality profile. And I will just add, even though it hasn't made it to this print because it's so hot off the press news, we just got our third grade results back, which we get in the middle of the school year. And we have the highest results we've had since 2015, the beginning of those results. And so what is really phenomenal about that is you first have to think, all right, when that test first came out, it was a pencil test. So third graders were taking it more of a traditional way of taking assessment in 2015. The second thing you have to remember is that these are the 2020 COVID kindergartners who got plucked out of school in March and then had a very interesting journey back as they've made it their way to third grade. And so it really, to me, speaks to the professional development that the teachers have done, the hard work, and the families working with us to get our kids to be readers, to get that higher performance up. Obviously, it's not where we want to stop. We want to keep going, but it's a tremendous sign to let us know that we're on the right path, moving in the right direction. And so as you flip through the roadmap report, you see a lot of that sentiment of, based on the feedback we're getting, we know we're on the right path. Our performance is getting better slowly but surely. One of the things you'll see in here, portrait of a graduate. Our families aren't familiar with the term portrait of a graduate sometimes. Probably all the families that were here tonight are familiar. But sometimes that term doesn't mean much to people. But once you give them the word and the definition, people are like, oh yes, I want my kids to have those skills, and those are very important to me. And so our data is very overwhelming that we're on the right track with that vision, that people support it, and they're giving us about a grade C in terms of how we're delivering on that right now. So it really gives us the signal that we've got some real work to do. You saw a really quality example tonight of kids connecting their science work with their English language arts, their presentation skills, their partnership skills as they're meeting with these outside people. All that's coming together, and we just want to see more and more of that kind of learning. Clearly, you could just see from the pictures, they were like all hooked in every time there was a guest speaker in the room or when they were working in small groups. And so we want to just, continue to grow that across the system. And it gives us a good sense of like, well, our community thinks we're about a C right now. So we've got a lot of room to grow, but it gives us a true focus. And so I think that'll be great for our team. We have impact team information as we go through. One of the big steps that the impact teams have taken this year is to do a SOAR analysis. A SOAR analysis breaks down the strengths, the opportunities, the aspirations, and the results. And this is based on all of the data that we've collected, as well as the focus group information, as well as any research that we've done. So it gives a good summary, and you can see that's in the back. And the whole reason I wanted to share this with you tonight is that you could look through it and see if there was just anything that's missing. We won't produce this, and I'll probably send it back once everyone's back from break, when it'll be finished, and it'll be cleaned up by then. And then as we've gone through this process, something I want to bring to your attention is that we've been, uncovering every rock when it comes to every program that we have and every process that we're developing. And we notice through this process that we're missing athletics in this conversation. And what we want to be able to do is to make sure that our athletic program and any extracurricular programs also align to Portrait of a Graduate outcomes. And so we're going to add them in as we move into second semester to do a similar processes that we've been doing, where we gather data, we do focus groups, where we gather around tables and problem solve and plan the athletic programs and the extracurricular programs of the future. Because we want to make sure, A, we're aligned to every athlete and every student, showing those Portrait of a Graduate outcomes. Because that's what you'll find when you look into the data. People say, where does this happen? Where do we see this? And you see it almost more on the football field, on the courts, and in all of our fields, and in the pool. You see these qualities come out, and we want to see them both in our athletics program as well as in our classroom. And we also know it's an opportunity to take a look at all of our facilities. As we're planning for 2030 and we're looking at what's the replacement for the turf? What is the replacement for, this facility or that facility? We want to make sure it's all packaged in, and there's no surprises when it comes to costs as we continue to continuously improve our facilities and keep everything up to date and safe. So we'll be adding that in the winter. So we won't go into any more details of this tonight, but I wanted to put it in your hands, obviously in a draft form, for you to give any other feedback before this goes out to our public next. Thank you. Now, what is next? Personnel?
So we're gonna go to the personnel agenda. I'm not Dr. Foltz, he is not here. He's fine, his hip is okay, he's just not gonna be here tonight. So we're gonna bring Christie up and go through the personnel agenda as he prepared it for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, members of the board, Mrs. Adams, Mr. Romano. In front of you is the personnel agenda for December 11th, 2023. On the agenda today, we have the resignations of 1 child nutrition assistant coordinator, 3 paraprofessional aides, 1 custodian, and 1 athletics facilities coordinator. We also have the retirement of 1 campus coordinator. Nancy Johnston has been with the district for more than 20 years, and she has decided to retire effective January 1st. So that was a very recent decision. We, of course, wish her well in her retirement. This is also the time of year where we bring administrator and exempt employee contracts for renewal. This agenda includes the proposed contract renewals for 28 administrators and 14 exempt staff. This agenda also includes the proposed hiring of 4 full-time paraprofessional aides and 3 second-shift custodians. On this agenda, we have the transfer reassignment of a head custodian to maintenance, a second-shift custodian to head custodian, a second-shift 8-hour custodian to a second-shift 4-hour custodian, and a paraprofessional aide to a health clinic assistant. We also have the proposed approval of supplemental contracts for multiple extracurricular advisors, home tutors, resident educator mentors, and coaches. Included in this agenda is the proposed approval for multiple unpaid leaves of absences, substitutes for this school year, and school volunteers and student teachers. There are also times throughout the year when we need to increase the number of FTEs to better serve our most diverse learners and provide more support across the district. On this agenda is the proposed approval to add 3 paraprofessional aides and a project management and communication specialist, which is an exempt position. Finally, in the work beyond the contract section are the proposed approval for payments of the CPI training support and marching band additional support. The superintendent recommends that you approve the personnel agenda as presented.
Heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes.
We had the district calendar approval and hearing process earlier tonight, and so at this time, we're asking you to approve the district calendar for the 24-25 school year as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Any questions? All right.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes.
So before Mrs. Otten begins with the collective bargaining agreements, I just want to say a special thank you to DeWitt Little, as well as Kim Reese, as the leaders of our associations. They've done a fabulous job leading their teams, working with our team to do a different kind of process this year. We went into interest-based bargaining, and it was a learning curve for all of us, and they led their team with excellence.
Yes, I didn't have any previous experience, but around the room, people said that they felt so much better walking out at the end of this process than they'd ever felt before because it was truly collaborative. Item 8.04 is the resolution for WCEA collective bargaining agreement between WCEA and West Clermont Board of Education to commence on August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2026. The superintendent recommends that you approve the WCEA collective bargaining agreement resolution as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
4 yes.
Item 8.05 is an MOU for the WCEA contract. Before you is a resolution to approve the memorandum of understanding between WCEA and West Clermont School District to approve the formation of 2 committees, the supplemental committee and a planning time committee. The superintendent recommends that you approve the MOU between WCEA and the West Clermont School District as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Are you gonna
He's gonna wear
motion
himself
everyone?
out
Yeah,
there.
that's my only question now.
I'm stamping my name to all of you.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
4 yes.
Item 8.06 is a resolution for our HOPE organization. The resolution before you is to approve the collective bargaining agreement between HOPE and West Clermont School District for August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2026. The superintendent recommends, before I do that, included in this resolution, I just want to make a note, is to move the start date of the contract from July 1st to August 1st to align all of our employees on the same contract period. The superintendent recommends that you approve the HOPE collective bargaining agreement resolution as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will allow someone else to take it to and put that out before and ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I will second that motion. No, I'm sorry, Mike, you can second, because you want your name on everything, so you second it.
All right, I'll second.
Okay, Mike.
Okay.
Any
Adam and
questions?
Chumley.
Got it.
One question. Is there something to extend the 1 month period?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Schaff.
Mr. Patton.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Mr.
Patton.
Patton and
I
then Mr.
apologize, Mr. Patton. And then Mr. Chumley. Okay, Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
4 yes.
Item 8.07 is an MOU for the HOPE organization. Before you is a resolution to approve the memorandum of understanding between HOPE and West Clermont School District to approve the formation of 2 committees, the Compensation Committee and the Professional Pathways Committee. The superintendent recommends that you approve the MOU between HOPE and the West Clermont School District as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 yes.
Item 8.08 is administrator salaries. Before you is a resolution to approve administrator and exempt employee salary increases. This just aligns with the 3% increase that we see in our other 2 contracts, which we typically extend to those groups as well. The superintendent recommends that you approve the resolution to increase administrator and exempt employee salaries as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I would like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any questions?
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
4 yes.
Item 8.09 is contract addendums. Before you is a resolution to approve a contract addendum for administrative and exempt employees to move to a day's worked contract. The superintendent recommends that you approve the resolution for the contract addendum for these employees as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I would like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any questions?
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 yes.
And item 8.10 is for miscellaneous and non-certified substitutes. Before you is a resolution to approve an updated salary schedule for miscellaneous and non-certified substitutes to reflect averages of peer districts. Some of these rates have not been increased for several years, going back to before 2000 in at least one case. So student workers, just as a note, will be paid at minimum wage, and we will have to adjust that as the minimum wage rate does adjust. The superintendent recommends that you approve the resolution to increase miscellaneous and non-certified substitute salaries as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Is it Mr. Patton, second, or
I second.
Okay, Mr. Schaff?
Chumley.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes. First reading.
Tonight we'll bring first reading for one policy 3411, placement on the salary schedule. For the first reading is some cleanup of some language. And this also makes it very clear that the board retains the authority to place new positions, determine the credit inside and outside of Ohio. We found that when we started to go through this, our own policy limited us when we started to look for filling positions. So this will allow us to give credit for those that are outside of Ohio as well. And I think that that's very important as we move forward. If you have any questions on this, this is the first reading for your information only. Please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nope, that's the report. Yes, that's it. So the next item is the safety report. This is a report that includes the full-fledged report, and then I have some slides here tonight that will just give you the high level. And if you note in the report, there were 421 parents or guardians who participated, 409 staff, 3,199 students. So we are very thankful for anybody who participates in our surveys to help give us more information. And this survey was a recommendation, if you'll remember, from the Citizens Advisory Commission, something that they believe we should do every year to see how we're moving the needle on safety and well-being. So it hit parents that were PK-12, and it was students just focused 5th grade through 12th grade. So that just to give you some perspective. In the first note here, it is overall 79% of our parents and guardians reported that our children feel that they're very safe or safe most of the time. And you'll see that that number, 79% for parents, 85% for staff. And this is the first time that the parents and the staff have taken the survey. For the high school, 80% of the students felt that they were very safe. And this was actually an increase from what we saw last year. Middle school, 74% felt that they were very safe or safe most of the time. This also reflects an increase. When we get to the elementary, 84% of the students say that they're very safe or safe most of the time. But this was slightly lower than last year's results. And so we want to continue to kind of unpack that and figure out if there's something different that has happened with this year's 5th grade class. You'll also see when you look at the incident reporting slide, there's some data there that overall 66% of the students report that adults always or usually take action when the students reports a safety issue. And 78% of our staff indicated that someone at the school always or usually takes action, whereas parents said 34 because they weren't sure. And so there's a little bit of a discrepancy between what kids think are happening, the teachers are thinking are happening versus the adults. And so some of that might be because of just how our feedback loop, some things that can't be shared, and that might be part of it. But why we zero in on this is because we want kids feeling comfortable talking to the adults in the school. And we want people to know that the loop gets closed, that there's a response. And so it kind of gives us all a moment to pause and think about what indicators do we give to kids that we are listening and we are doing something about it. And similarly with parents. As you get into further details, this just gave out one of the examples from the report. You can dig into the report and see more. But it's asking, in addition to overall safety, the survey asked students about incidents and observations at the 9 schools at school-related events. So this first one was, over the last year, has someone at your school taken money or other valuables from you or threatened to hurt you? And so a large percentage said no, but a small percentage said yes. And so then we tried to dig in. Okay, what part of the school, where does that happen? Is it in the classroom, in the hallways, in the cafeteria? So it helps you know where some of those trouble spots are. And we want to know, okay, so if this thing happened, did you report it to a teacher? Did you report it to an administrator or another adult? And so you see 26% of the time yes, but 73% of the time no. And so that knowing the process for reporting and feeling comfortable doing that are two things that we've got to continue to work on to improve that data. As we keep going, this is where you can see some improvement. Last year, we were about 80% in the 2022 survey to say that there was at least one adult in the building that the students felt comfortable with. Well, now that has increased to 83%. And that's why we have the focus of knowing every student's name, knowing their story, knowing their strengths, and knowing their needs. And I will comment, Mr. Potabon had just shared in the high school, there was a teacher who just very simply, I mean, this took time for her, but very simply put every student's name on a card and then wrote a little comment about them and hung it outside her door. And it's like, in that classroom, they're having high performance. Like, kids are coming to school, they feel seen, they feel heard, and that teacher with that small move, and I'm sure many more other small moves, is making a difference. And so I just wanted to say, like, it's not sometimes always something we need to spend a lot of money on or do big things. It's making those connections. And if you keep going, Dan, here on this slide here, I found this to be interesting because this is, do you feel comfortable talking to your parents or an adult family member? And you can see that 71% of our kids feel comfortable talking to their parents. 8% said no, they don't. And 21% says it depends. And so this is just another illustration of how vital the relationships in school and in our communities are for our kids, because sometimes these moments aren't as safe as we want to believe that this would be like 100%, but it's not. So just something to think about. And as we keep going, is there at least one teacher or another adult at your school that you would feel comfortable talking to if you were feeling sad or depressed? So that got a little bit more specific, and you can see the pie graph breaking down, where about 73% of our students feel that there's someone to talk to if they're sad or depressed. And so what I'm proud of, and like what Eric shared with you tonight, is the grant money we've been able to invest in having extra therapists and supports around our students, because our teachers are certainly listening ears, but they're not experts in these areas. So we've been able to add, through counselors that we've added, psychologists, as well as some behavioral support and therapists to grow this. Is it enough? No. But have we put a good dent in it and made some progress? Yes. And so we want to keep our eye on that. And finally, the last part of this survey is the Net Promoter Score. This is that score that you can score anywhere from a negative 100 to a positive 100, and a 0 is a good score. And so just to give a frame of reference, Walmart customers usually are giving like the score of 8. So we always are shooting for that 0 to 5 kind of range as like a good range to get in. And at this point, these are all increases from what we saw last year, because we asked this question frequently. Our parents were at a -4, our students a -34, and our staff a -7. So even though no one ever wants to see a negative number, 0 is a good score in this kind of survey. And we want to just keep getting those numbers above 0. That's our goal and hope. So I would hope that you would all take some time to read those reports coming out. There's a lot of data in there. Our impact teams are using those, and that's the information that we'll be bringing back to you over the course of the next year to make recommendations as to, okay, now what? What are we going to do next? So, any questions?
They need to change their scale.
I know. It is kind of frustrating, but it's what it's collecting is it's finding out, is this somebody who's a promoter of your school, or are they a distractor? Are they going to be at the grocery store saying positive things? Or are they going to say, you know, I wouldn't send my kid there, or I wouldn't work there, or I don't want to go to school there. And so we want to limit that. And that's why we ask it several times throughout the year, because sometimes it depends on the time of year. It depends on if you just had a bad moment, got off on a bad phone call, or just whatever. And so we want to keep that pulse, so, and get it better. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so up next we have Mr. Gephardt coming up to talk about facilities. We have a video. We're going to kick off first with that. This is the first video of a series of, I think, 10 more coming, and the whole goal is to educate our community on our facilities and the state of things. You know, as you all know, we have state-of-the-art facilities, and we have some buildings that were built in the 60s and that need a lot of care and attention. And so we just want to make sure our community kind of has the same information that we all have. So we're ready if you are, whoever's pushing play.
West Clermont school buildings aren't just facilities. They are the learning environments that shape the experience of our modern learners and have a direct impact on the success and progress of each student. It's a continuous priority to ensure our learning spaces contribute to academic growth, student and staff safety, and the diversity of educational programming options. Our schools just aren't bricks and mortar, but building blocks for the future of our students. Let's face it, kids spend a lot of time at school. School is their home away from home and plays a huge role in helping them achieve their hopes and dreams for the future. Our schools are also some of the most important assets of our community, and they belong to you. We know you drive by our buildings daily, but when is the last time you have taken a look inside? That's why we have made it a priority to open up our buildings so the community can see all the great things and some of the not so great things our buildings provide. If you haven't yet been to one of our building tours, I encourage you to attend one. Having facilities that function well for our students is a critical condition for reaching Portrait of a Graduate outcomes for all of our students. We want each of our facilities to provide all of our students with what they need to become future-ready graduates. Right now, some of our buildings are state-of-the-art, but some aren't quite where we need them to be. We believe providing a video tour of each building will provide greater transparency and information to our community about the usage and condition of each of your school buildings. Please tune into social media for our weekly series over the next few months to learn more about West Clermont's learning environments and facilities. And please join us for a building tour. The dates are available on our website, www.westclair.org.
So that's just one of the examples as we move forward in the next year. We're going to have more videos. We're going to have the videos from all the buildings. We'll make those public as well. We'll shoot those out, social media. And we'll start to build that library of the videos. People like the short snippets videos where they can see the buildings, they can see the different things. There's also going to be some videos on some of our special events, the alumni event that'll be in February or in January. Since we changed the date on that, there's going to be videos on finance, there's going to be videos on modern learning environments, so you'll start to see those as we go into next year. It's kind of like our video series that we're going to go on. We started talking about facilities, we started talking about aging buildings. We know we have some aging buildings. We looked through that audit that we went through, the building audit, and saw a lot of red in some of our buildings and some of the challenges that we have. We have trending enrollment going up. It's sporadic, which makes it very, very difficult for us as we start to look at the facilities and try to plan and try to make that 3-year plan, 1-year plan, 5-year plan. And when it's trending upward, but it's so sporadic, it's a challenge for us as we start to begin planning. And we're running out of space. I mean, that's the bottom line. We are running out of space. Our impact team on facilities, we have them at the different schools. And we go through and we talk with the principal, we take a tour. The principal talks to us about their creative ways and how they've been able to manipulate space for different things. We may have speech that's maybe supposed to be in a classroom, but now it's in a storage area, or a music storage area where we put two people as their office. And so all of our principals do a great job in creating and space for the needs that they have, but in some of our buildings, it's becoming a big challenge for us. And so when we start to look at the facilities and we start to look at all of our buildings, there is a real issue of running out of space. And we've talked about that. The process that we started the tours. We started going into different buildings for our Board of Education meetings once a month. We're going to continue that in January. I think in January we'll start off at Holly Hill, and we'll continue that and we'll to the end of May. And so once we get through May, we'll visit at all the buildings. We'll have all the videos, and we'll be able to talk about that. The other big piece of this is, as you know, we brought SHP on as far as our architect as we start to build our master facility plan. And I think that that's going to be important. So you're going to see, we're going to be meeting with SHP on Monday as we really start to tone into exactly what the dates are going to be. And so some of the things that are involved in that will be the steering committee, which is that internal committee as well. We have an educational visioning committee as well that will be targeting, that will be working with CAC and working with what Ellie's doing with the modern learning environment, and we'll do those together. But it brings more voices in, and I think it's going to be an important process that we bring more voices in so that they can see what the future is, so they can see what the needs are, and as we start to build our CAT. And so the CAT, for anyone that might be retiring from the board, we'll be looking for people to help us with our CAT process. As we start to look at our community advisory team, we'll need leaders from our community to take hold of this and make it their own. That's the important piece of any type of working with a master facilities plan. We've got to get our stakeholders involved in the process, and really owning that process and bringing a recommendation to the board as we look at our master facility plan. So as we develop this, we'll be having targeted outreaches with our social media. We'll be having meetings with our CAT as we begin the first of the year. And we'll be, hopefully by December, about this time next year, making a recommendation to the board on our master facility plan. It's not going to come from me, or it's not going to come from Mrs. Adams. It's going to be coming from our CAT team that does the research, that works with SHP as they develop this plan. And I think that it's important as we move forward to bring more people involved. The first town hall that we had on facilities at Merwin had a good turnout. Of those, I think we had 35 people that said that they would continue on the CAT. We want to get 40 to 50 people. We'd like to have 60 people. So let's be realistic, and hopefully we can get 40 to 50 people that will be committed to the CAT process and working on our master facility plan. We have all this. You'll be seeing more information on this. You'll be starting seeing dates. As Mrs. Adams said, there are a lot of things with impact teams, the CAC, CAT, what other CA thing we can put in there. So I think it's something that as we move forward is probably some of the most important work that we're going to do, because this will set the future for West Clermont schools. And as our enrollment, as I said, goes up or trends upward, running out of space, and then we have to make some really tough decisions as a board, as a community, and as the stakeholders on what the direction we're going to go with our facilities. So I'm excited about it. A lot of work behind the scenes with Chuck and so forth, but I think that I'm looking forward to the process as we get into this in January.
And we'll keep putting documents on the town hall part of the website, where we've been filtering anything that we collect and any information that we gather will go there as just a repository.
Yeah.
So. It looks like you learned a little bit from the 4th and 5th graders when they were teaching their persuasive skills today.
I know what you're talking about.
I know. I don't really have any more comments tonight. We have had a very packed agenda. We've had a chance to celebrate you guys, and just want to thank you again from our team to you of just how supportive we felt, and how your leadership has really inspired us to work really hard to get performance up at West Clermont. And we do hope you stay connected in our schools and our community, because it's hard, especially when you think about the amount of years you both have served here. It's just hard to picture it without you. So. Any questions for me?
Okay. So what I want to do with the fiscal minute is just kind of tell you about the roller coaster ride that the superintendent and I have been on since, what, spring?
June?
Yeah,
Well,
late spring, early summer. That is when the budget bill came to an end. There were some other bills introduced which were really about property taxes, or perceived to be about property taxes. And I think the way some of us saw it, it was really about school funding. So I want to give you the status update or report on where House Bill 187 is. And I think the superintendent and I have been feeding you information as far as where that's gone. Originally, that bill was positioned to look at the property valuation structure, and in that reappraisal system where there's a triennial and a sexennial, so every 3 and 6 years when property values are reassessed. the original intent was to change that valuation structure. Instead of a one-year look back or the most recent sales, is to do a 3-year averaging. And when you think about that with the 3-year averaging, as that was done in 2023, this year, when those property values are being reappraised, go 3 years back, it's not 23, 22, 21, it is 22, 21, 20. And if you know the process that takes place, that average would stay pretty much intact. It can change every year, but it typically doesn't. It would stay intact until the next 3 years, which means that some values from 20, 21, and 22 are going to be considered in 24, 25, and 26 when that reappraisal process comes back. 6 years old, okay, with that. That wasn't the original intent. So the summer and even the fall was kind of as I said, a roller coaster ride of changes up and down. One time, superintendent thought, oh, it's not going to happen. The next week, it is going to happen, back and forth with it. Where it is today is this. The bill 187 originally passed the House. And both of us, I think, got a lesson in how our state government works again, because frankly, I'm probably still a little bit confused with it. But so where it is now, it came out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, and what Senator Blessing, I think promoted by him, had happened was what we would call or term as, it really took away the 3-year averaging and went back to the current structure, so a 1-year look back on the sales. In place, it was a more targeted approach on some property tax relief, and that was through the homestead rollback. And so there's a temporary expanded enhanced homestead exemption. Currently what it does, it expands the dollar amount of the exemption, so it's more targeted to people that have income less than $70,000. It's at a graduated scale for that. So it's more for seniors, it's more for people on fixed incomes, lower incomes that are property owners within any community, not just those going through a reappraisal. It's temporary because it's only going to be for 3 years, okay, as that goes forward. The other provision in it, and there's a lot of talk about this provision where the share for school districts for that homestead rollback, which would get reduced, okay, the revenue to school districts, the share would be 50% by the school district and then 50% by the state. So the state would still reimburse whatever reduction there is, not 100%, but 50% of that to the school districts. That's for school districts. Other local governments, they would get reimbursed 100%. Okay, so I don't know how that is. It's temporary, but when they go to relief, that's what's going forward in that bill as they do that. There's a couple other things that are out there in the hopper, and at the top of this presentation, I put House Bill 187, 274, and 344, because quite frankly, I don't know what's in which. But I know they're all going to be discussed this week through hearings. But there's a look at eliminating property tax levies in the replacement, for replacement levies. Okay, 2030, we passed the emergency levy in 2020, 10 years, it's going to be coming back up. Okay, so it is looking at those. Okay, there's a modification on property tax complaints. So right now there's a provision, and we've had this happen to us in our school district where there's some transfers of property through an LLC, which aren't public, and so they may be worth significant dollars. And if the county auditor can't see that, they can't do the look back on that to adjust those values. There's attempts to try and correct that, but there's also attempts to try, like here, to keep it in play. Okay, so part of this modification is we can't do a complaint, okay, unless there's a conveyance attached to it. That conveyance is the document that makes it public on what that transfer was, okay? So that's going to be looked at in there. The other provision that Senator Blessing, I believe, brought forward was with, right now, currently, the State Department of Taxation kind of has the final say on property reappraisal. So the county auditor can submit their homework, okay, all their work up on the sales to the Department of Taxation. The Department of Taxation can push back and say, you know, here's where these adjustments should be made, and they kind of have the final say. With this provision, it flips that around. It gives the local county auditor, okay, sort of the final say in what those valuations are. And if the state tax commissioner disagrees, okay, and has recommendations, it's only a recommendation. And if the county auditor doesn't want to follow through with it, then the State Department of Taxation or the commissioner, they have to then go file, okay, and go to battle that way with it. So it kind of flips the table on those with it. All those issues I just discussed are going to be looked at this week, okay? 187 on Wednesday, the 13th, is scheduled a hearing on that. House Bill 274, the Ways and Means Committee on the House, tomorrow they will be looking at in the afternoon, and all these are video taped so we can go look at those. And then House Bill 344 is tomorrow at 3:30 also. So all of the weigh-ins are those, the pro and cons will be discussed there. Time is kind of getting short because quite frankly, I don't know, you know, sooner or later they're going to go on recess for the holiday break, right? What I don't know if there's going to take action before recess. I'm not sure if they can come back after the close of the calendar year and pass legislation that impacts the tax retroactively. So for in 24, do something for taxes in 23, okay? And there's a lot of questions going on with that. If something's going to happen, it will probably happen this week. There is the emergency provision in that so that it doesn't have to do the 90-day waiting, okay? It can go to the governor for the governor to sign and be enacted immediately with that. So that's kind of the update. I wish we could be more definitive on what it is. I do give an appreciation to the three major associations that we belong to, the Ohio School Board Association, the BASA, the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, or also called the Superintendent's Association, and then the OASBO, which is the Ohio Association of School Business Officials. They are three groups that work together, especially on financial issues.
And the Alliance.
And the Alliance, I'm sorry, the Alliance for High Quality, let me get it right. Alliance for High Quality AHQ Education? Okay. So those four groups really, I
I'm
think I
pretty
got
sure
it
it
right.
is, yes. It's 9:15, I'm not sure of
That-
anything.
That's what it, so, which means don't go past 9:20 every time, okay. So, but their efforts in trying to keep what sometimes doesn't make sense, or trying to make sense out of all that to us, has really been good. And they've been down there working the floors of the State House for all school districts within the state. So that's the update there. If you have any questions on these, we can try and answer them, but it's that as much as we know right now, and I think after they do those hearings, we'll know a little bit more in what direction it is going in. So that's the update there. My comments, just want to do 2 minutes, won't be long, reflection on the IBB process. I first did IBB back in 1993 when it was fairly new. It was, you know, based off of a book, Getting to Yes. And
And I was a freshman in college.
Yeah, some people may not have been born, okay, you know, back then. But the process has really matured, and it was really great to see, you know, as a finance person, you can sit back, and where traditional negotiation, there was two sides, and one side won, one side lost, or at least the one side who thought they won, okay, they probably lost too, and there were really no real winners coming out of that. And in the process that, and I really applaud the associations, both WCEA and HOPE, for, you know, going into the process and really living up to the spirit of it. It is a confirmation that there is wisdom in a group of people coming together to collaborate and to have consensus. I think there is also, when you come out of it, not everything gets resolved, right? There's things that you can agree to and maybe some things you can't. But even those things that you did not agree to, and I've even seen this, is people still try and figure out solutions for those. Okay, so it makes it real going forward. Because you had the conversation and you weren't talking at each other, you were talking with each other, it really lends to how you can go forward during the duration of those contracts. And so I really look forward to that too, with both those associations in keeping the wisdom going, with both of us through there. So it was for me, after, I'm sitting through a lot of traditional negotiations, to go back to something where both sides can work together to come up with some really good solutions, was really gratifying to see and really be part of with that. And the only other thing I have to say before the end is, again, to both of you, congratulations. Looking forward to chapter 2, okay? Mr. Patton, Mr. Schaff, I really look forward. We got a new board coming in January. I guess that's another chapter 2 too for all of us as we go forward. So excited about that happening too. Wish everybody a happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank
Board
you.
business.
All right, on to board business. We have to, since we will not be here for the next meeting, we have to select a temporary president. Is that the
President Pro Tem?
Pro Tem.
Pro Tem.
All right, I would like to put Jim Rudy's name on the floor and ask for a second for that. I guess
So
that's
moved.
the way we go. Yeah.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion on that?
Do we even know if Jim wants to do that? He's not here. We're putting him.
I live by the, you miss a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Volunteer.
I'm okay. I mean, President Pro Tem only sits
Let's start the meeting.
to start the meeting, the organizational meeting, and then we swear in the new members, and then we select a new board president. So I'm okay with,
That's his punishment.
Yep. I spoke with Mr. Rudy earlier today in anticipation that if he wouldn't have nominated him for that, I was going to. He was more than happy to assume that role for the one meeting in January. I don't know what his interest is going past that meeting.
Okay, as long as someone has spoke with him, I mean, I hate
Yes. No.
to say, hey,
Spot.
hello.
It's a
You
surprise.
miss a meeting, you get
Whoa.
assignments.
There's the gavel.
He's more than happy with that.
Okay. Any other? Good.
So this is a motion for Mr. Rudy to be the President Pro Tem for the organizational meeting.
It also has, it states the organizational meeting in here is January 4th at 7 o'clock in this room that we're in. What's this, Queen City room?
If I'm not
That's not the
meeting,
room we're in.
That's when we vote.
Queen City
It
is
has to be
downstairs.
downstairs. We must
We'll
have
vote
to
for
meet
the permanent
downstairs, there must be a
president.
conflict, so.
That may be their operational meeting, the
Yeah.
trustees meeting.
It could be, so we'll
I think
be
it
in the
was.
Queen City room downstairs on January 4th.
that's a Thursday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, roll call would be Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
4 yes.
All right. Final comments here, Mr. Schaff.
I didn't get a video when I left the board, so that must mean that you guys are really special. Yeah.
It means we're upping our game in video, is what it means.
No, I played Mr. Ryle, yeah. I'm honored to have served with both of you twice. When I left the board back in, I don't even remember when, it was so long ago, but I knew I was leaving it in good hands, and it had already been in good hands. And Tammy, you've been a mentor to so many people coming and going, and I think we've said this in somewhere, but the institutional knowledge that's leaving with you is immeasurable. And hopefully you are still around, either one of Mr. Gebhardt's CA teams or whatever they are, CA something. But I thank you both for your service, and hopefully sometime in the future you have an opportunity to come back.
Maybe we'll serve for a third time together.
Maybe.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody, so.
So I'll start with saying I appreciate the student voice. That was a great presentation that the kids did. They did a great job with their research and the information, so they did a great job. I'll have to remember the date. They gave us a date.
The 19th.
December 19th.
Okay.
10 to 12.
So
Yes.
write that down. Obviously, the music that we had, both the instruments and the singing was phenomenal in the whole thing. I will say that I'm finishing my second year, and I too appreciate the knowledge that you guys have passed on to me. Mike was patient with me and some of my bumping my head in the beginning. I appreciate the words of wisdoms, as we're walking out. So I appreciate that. And Tammy, I appreciate the phone calls and the information that you provide me. So I appreciate it, and I hope you guys well. Wish you guys well.
Thank you. So over the weekend, I was reflecting on how the last 12 years have gone. And I'm very thankful that you all chose those 12 pictures or so on the video, because I was sitting here thinking, oh, this is not going to end well for me. I've been taped to walls, had pies thrown at me. I've been in dunking booths. I have worn Cinnabons on my ears as Princess Leia. The list goes on and on. One of my proudest and most favorable moments came from when we were Glen Estee and Amelia. At Glen Estee, they would have a pep rally, and only those students that paid $1 could attend. And the purpose of that was because they didn't have the space for all of the students, and that was a way of figuring it out. I wrote a check to West Clermont High School for $1,400 and said, now you got a problem. Figure it out so that there's no students that are left behind. Everyone should have that opportunity. Fast forward a couple years, we built this new high school, and their pep rally for the football season, I just had to see it from my eyes that every student, every butt in that building was inside that gym. And I'm standing there just in awe of, we did this. We made it happen. When Collins starts announcing my name, and I'm thinking, what now? What has he got me into? I found myself in the tug of war with the students and the staff, and the only thing I kept thinking of, dear God, students, don't let go of the rope, because you know where we're all going. We're going to go flying, and that's not a good look on anyone. So I appreciate the selection of photos.
I think we need a new video.
We missed the good ones.
Maybe I'll prepare that for you, just for your, yeah. Nonetheless, it has been my honor and pleasure to serve you on this school board. I thank the community. For allowing me the pleasure. I'm not going to be a stranger. I'm going to be around. Tap in, reach out. I'm happy to continue to serve, even if I'm not a member of this board.
The kid said when you touch your heart, you really mean it. Like
Yeah.
it's emotional, so we know you.
And emphasize it with a child.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going nowhere. Nonetheless, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
I quickly learned when I came on here that we have one of the best teams I've ever seen. Best team in the state, I'm sure. Like I said, I've been honored to serve alongside each and every one of you. I've been blessed to be here. 7 years ago, it would have been crazy if you would have told me so. I want to thank you all. Again, this is not goodbye. You'll probably see me over at Merwin hanging out, so. And I'll be here too. You'll see my face here plenty, I'm sure, if you're not already sick of it, so. I will end with a final Who Day.
Yes.
And a Merry Christmas, so. Next meeting is January 4th, and you'll see a bunch of pretty new faces, so. We will see you then. Can we, I will adjourn this meeting, put it on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
And I will happily second it.
All right, any last words or anything? All right.
Mr. Chumlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
No.
You always do that.
Thanks for joining us. He wanted to gamble.
Gambling
tonight.
3 yes, 1 no. I vote not to
I
adjourn, because
swear-
if we don't adjourn, you can't leave.
He's done that before.
I've done it once before. Thank you.
You can leave, but you can't stay here. I will tell you.